tuning in to the Coach V Show here on Island City, where the beach meets the streets. Where this evening on Mana Motivation Monday, I will be featuring on the Coach V Show your girl and professional, the Healani McConnell, Dr. Healani McConnell, who is a OBGYN hospitalist at South Sacramento, Kaiser, and she will be sharing all her life lessons and her life path to get her to where it is today, where I am titling this show Survival Training. Stay tuned. It's going to be a great show. Get your notebook out and make sure to take notes and or just jot some notes down to help better your life, leadership, and business down on your phone. And now a word from our sponsor.
My Free Pharmacy is the future of pharmacy today. We are a membership-based pharmacy headquartered in Ohio, and we ship door-to-door for your monthly prescription. My Free Pharmacy offers 91% of the most prescribed generic medications in the U.S. 87% of all prescriptions in America are filled with generic medication. At My Free Pharmacy, we are laser focused on delivering medications Americans actually use. For a monthly subscription of $19.95 for individuals or $29.95 for households, we can ship all your generic medication with no shipping costs. Call us for a free analysis on how we can save your company or organization up to 40 to 60%. Sign up today at myfreepharmacy.com/join. And get your generic prescriptions free with a paid monthly membership. Visit myfreepharmacy.com/join and start saving today.
Welcome to the Coach V Show, your Hollywood radio show for personal development, with expert insights and interviews for you, me, and we to work to be our best and live our best life. And we will be, along with my featured guests, offering for your consideration success frameworks, behavioral models, and life lessons that if you should believe and find value in them, that you subscribe and then deploy it all over your life, leadership, and business. Broadcast from Hollywood-Radio Studios, powered by the Island City Media Group, where the beach meets the streets. And today, this Mana Motivation Monday, I am so excited to bring and or feature on the Coach V Show, Dr. Healani McConnell, who has roots in the 808, so shout out to the 808, and is now living here in the 916 with Kaiser Permanente. Welcome to the Coach V Show, your girl, Dr. Healani McConnell. Dr. McConnell, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for the honor of inviting me.
Oh, the honor is all ours here to have a sister, a Polynesian island sister from Hawaii on the show. Super excited. Let's talk story about your roots and your genesis point. Tell us your story, please, doctor.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that point was started before I was born. You know, my parents are Native Hawaiian. My dad's family is from Kalihi. My mother's side of the family is from Kohala on the Big Island. Both of my parents were children when my grandmothers died. And so those huge life events, I think, made them grow up faster than they would have otherwise. You know, my dad wasn't able to go to high school because he was taking care of his older disabled stepbrother. My mom didn't get along with her stepmother, so she moved out of their home at the time, which was in California, and moved to Hawaii to live with an aunt. They both put themselves through school. My dad got his GED, started working at Pearl Harbor, and that was his career. My mom put herself through schooling and then became a nurse. And so, you know, they had to kind of make their own pathways, and I think that set a stage for who we were going to be. They met at church and they got married and they had us kids.
That's awesome. And when was that? When did they first get married and then started having kids? Roundabout, if you don't know the exacts.
So, no, they my dad was 19 actually when they got married, and my mom was older. She was 28. And so that was in 1979. I was born in 1980. So they had me within a year of getting married.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then so talk about that. Where did you guys grow up? What neighborhood?
Sure. So I was born in Honolulu. And I think we stayed there until I was 5 or so, and then we moved out to to Kaneohe, the windward side.
Hmm.
And we were there until I think it was around 11 or so, and then we moved out to the west side in Nanakuli.
Okay. So explain for those people that don't know Oahu. So, and I'm familiar, but I know those areas. So talk about the windward side. So if we're in Wikes or Waikiki, where would the windward side be in Oahu? Explain.
That would be directionally challenged.
Me too.
You could go several ways
Right.
to Kaneohe. That I believe that would be north.
Yeah. So like Liki Liki Highway going up that
Yes,
towards that way. Yeah. Right.
correct,
Yeah.
correct.
And then the west side, the other side of the island, explain where that is and what high school, all that.
Yeah, of course. So that was past, I think people probably know Kapolei
Yep.
because Aulani's out there, right?
Yep.
Everyone goes to vacation there. So it's past that. And I actually went to Nana Ikapono Elementary School, and I think they have since moved, but at the time it was right on the beach. It was just gorgeous. We go out,
Wow.
play recess, play tetherball, look at the ocean, look at Whales Breach. It was amazing.
Wow.
And so many life lessons learned along the way, but I remember, I think I was in 6th grade, and how you have your graduation ceremony. And my classmates had their, flowers and balloons, and I didn't get anything. And so I went home. I was like, Mom and Dad, how come I didn't get anything for graduation? And they were actually like, we're proud of you, but we expect you to have graduated 6th grade.
Right, right, right.
Accomplishment will be graduated from high school, and we will celebrate then. And so, because they had expectations for me, I had expectations for myself. And I'm so blessed that they valued education like they did, because they knew it would open doors for us in the future.
That's awesome. So your dad talk to us and introduce us to your parents' names, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So my dad's name is Ronald, and my mom's name is Charlie, and that's actually how they got my middle name, Sharon. They combined their names. My dad is very strong. He has a medical condition where he has blisters on his feet.
Hmm.
I remember growing up where he had to get up early every morning to pop his blisters, put on bandages so he could get his shoes on to go to work. And my sister and brother have the same condition, and but they didn't let it stop them. They were in the marching band in high school. So being firsthand to that, they could have been the victims and let it, stop them from achieving what they wanted to achieve, but they didn't. And so I think that kind of influenced how I view adversity.
Wow. And moms, talk to us about Charlie.
Yeah, absolutely. So she went to University of Hawaii Nursing School and worked in different positions at different hospitals and facilities on Oahu. Everything from, I think she was on the geriatric unit at Queens, to the IV team, to the psych unit. She worked at psych facilities, and she ended her career in hospice. So we spent a lot of time kind of in the medical arena, after school, waiting for her at the hospital to get off her first shift. She did put her career on hold, initially to stay home with us kids and help raise us, but then eventually went back when we were a little older.
What are the life lessons, Dr. McConnell, from your childhood about being around two parents that did whatever it took so that you could have the life that you led as a child? Talk to us about that, please.
Yeah, there were so many. They provided for us, and we had everything we needed, maybe not everything we wanted.
Mm.
I remember as a kid complaining about what we had for dinner, and who doesn't, right? As a kid,
Right.
about what they have for dinner. But my parents would tell us, be grateful for what you have, because people don't have food,
Yeah.
And later I realized they were talking about themselves.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's some real talk. That's real talk. Continue,
Yeah.
please, when ready.
Um, they guided us through childhood and then beyond, but they let us figure things out for ourselves as well. Because um, without struggling, you don't learn how to do things on your own. Growing up on the West Side was beautiful, and I'm glad we had that opportunity to do that, but it also had its challenges because although I'm Native Hawaiian, I do pull more of the Caucasian side.
Mm,
So, there were times when people would yell at us for being haole,
mm,
how we looked, and learning how to ignore that and to ultimately realize that hurt people, or people who are not happy with themselves are the ones doing that. And
right.
learning that I didn't want to be like that. There was so much. Knowing that my parents were there for me and they loved me no matter what, I never felt pressured to become a physician. I
Right.
think I wanted to be an astronaut at one point, and my parents, all they ever told me was, we just want you to be happy, and whatever you choose to do, make sure you're really good at it. So I didn't have any of, the pressure to go into this field. I did it because I ultimately decided that's where I was meant to be.
That's awesome. So, in spite of, right? So, your parents taught you gratitude. I mean, there's so many meanings of aloha, but
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that gratitude, being grateful for what you have while still striving for what you want. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's so much of aloha, but you do it together, right? You do it in such a spirit of, and that's me, an outsider who's a Tongan who uh, I uh, I adopted myself into the 808 culture because I just love the food. I love Hawaii. I don't want to go as deep south as Tonga
Mm-hmm.
to have that experience. But and then talk to us about the challenges of being bullied. I think it's always been around. I think it's even more multiplied because of social media and the way that kids interact and have a platform to be able to shame, you know, and we use that both in Tonga and in Hawaii. It's like, oh, this person have no shame. Oh, you shame you, or you're like this, or you're like that, or for me growing up is, man, why you talk black? And then I went to school and then I was an athlete. It's like, you want to be black. Why you always act black? And then I went to UC Davis and got a degree, came home and like, man, why you trying to be white? Right. There's always opinions and people from within our own culture that always throw this shame on us. Talk
Mm-hmm.
about that and how you were able to overcome that, please, doctor.
Yeah, I think having self-worth is a big part of it. Knowing that I am, worthy of being here and I have a lot to offer. I think it's something I'm trying to instill in my kids because you're right, it's out there, it's not going to go away.
Right.
And just learning how to work through it. I think part of it is not only having the self-worth and knowing what you're good at, and having that support system around you, but then ignoring that person, because
Mm-hmm.
if you don't give them the reaction they want, most likely they'll stop. And if they don't, ask for help.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I think that's key to asking for help and not just letting people just push you around, but then also really don't subscribe and give value to something
Um,
that doesn't bring value to you. And any final thoughts on that before we move on?
yeah, ultimately it's about treating people how you'd want to be treated. So that's, what my philosophy is on life. And I'm hoping to instill that in my kids.
Yeah, That's awesome. Talk about high school now. Let's transition into high school and then bridge us to this whole East Coast and going to school out in the East Coast, please.
Yeah, so I went to the Kamehameha Schools for intermediate and high school. And it was there that I applied for and obtained a summer internship to the University of Rochester with actually an alum from my high school. His goal of establishing this was to get Hawaii kids to see what else was out there. So my friend and I went there for summer. I think it was about 6 weeks or so. We worked in the hospital with him, and we took some college level classes. And ultimately, I ended up applying to and getting into, and I went to the University of Rochester. My mom jokes that I might as well have just left the country. I don't think she was so happy that I went so far away, but
yeah.
it was part of that whole thing about, you have to, you give your kids that solid base and just let them fly. So I still remember getting on the airplane. We didn't have the means for them to move me into college. So it was myself and my duffel bag and flying over there and figuring it out. And that was an interesting experience. I joked to my mom that I grew as a person. I had, got a little sidetracked. I didn't have the best grades, so, didn't get into medical school initially, but, that turned out to be a blessing because I had that time. I did the research with the fruit flies and I solidified the fact that I did not want to go into research. I actually wanted to work in medicine with humans.
Right.
And I got to figure out that what I was willing to sacrifice to make that happen. So I made that commitment, moved home. And then while taking some pre-med requisites, which I had not finished in college, I needed money. So I worked at Macys at the makeup counter. And that was great because I got to listen to people and their problems and, help them feel better by putting makeup on them.
Right. No, what a great story. So talk first and foremost about that castle on the hill, that Kamehameha experience, please.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so blessed that I was able to go there. It's not really easy to get in. A lot of people want to go there. And I still remember when they interview you, and I don't know if they still do, but one of my interview questions was to define character. That's pretty heavy as a sixth grader interviewing seventh grade. But that was just one of the many life lessons my parents taught me. It's doing the right thing when no one's looking. And so thankfully I got in, and the opportunities afforded me there were amazing. The education, the facilities, the friendships I made there, the long-lasting relationships that have come out of that place. I'm just so grateful for that.
And then your experience as a local girl, right? Out in the East Coast. How was that in terms of culture clash, food-wise? Talk about that, please.
I didn't really have any winter clothes. I certainly did not have any winter boots. I took my slippers with me and I made sure they're the platform kind so I could stand above the snow in my slippers. My mom thankfully bought me a LL Bean jacket, but it was hunter orange, so I looked like I was going hunting. So at least my body was warm, but it was funny because I walked around with those platform slippers the first winter and quickly learned that was not a good idea. So, the weather was so different. My college roommate was from New Jersey, and she took me in. Like I was, her whole family took me in. So that was nice. I got to go home with her for holidays because we didn't have enough money for me to go, all the way home to Hawaii. So, it ended up being I think it was what I needed at the time, even though it wasn't easy to be away from my family that long, but it was good.
And you mentioned the whole Macys makeup artist deal. Talk about how what we might perceive as setbacks and challenges and struggles, like not getting into medical school and having to take a different route. And I believe in the medical field, it's called like bedside manner. Yeah. Something like that. Yeah.
It
Or,
is.
yeah. Or bedside attitude or customer service in other fields that I coach. Talk about how overcoming not getting into med school and then having to take this route has helped you, or your thoughts on those setbacks and having to do something you didn't plan to do to get to where you are now, please, doctor.
Yeah, I mean, I was disappointed in myself, initially that I wasn't on the path I initially saw myself on, but knew that I would get there. It would just take a little while. I think it was hard to deal with I received insults at working at the makeup counter. One of the customers called me a high school dropout.
Right.
And I was like, why would you assume that? And so I think it taught me that you can't assume anything about people. You don't know what their story is. You don't know their background. You don't know where they're going in life. So, that, I guess that was a life lesson there.
Yeah.
And then, just helping people feel better about themselves made me feel good, and then I was like, wow, I really like the feeling of this. And I'm taking that with me to what I do now, however I can do that.
So then talk about now your professional career, going through residency, getting hired, you switched locations. Fill in the audience about that journey,
Sure.
please.
Yeah, sure. So while working, I applied to medical school, and it's funny because I was on my way for a shift at Macys when I had my interview. So I tell everyone it was hilarious. I showed up with blue eyeshadow to my eyebrows. My med school interview. I'm sure the dean of students was like, what is going on here? I had to tell him, I'm sorry, I'm on my way for a shift to work. Don't mind my makeup. But I ended up getting in, and med school is 4 years, residency is 4 years, and it was 8 years of, I would probably compare it to survival training. It was just, very intense. And somehow in there, I met my husband, Brandon. It was my 4th year of medical school. We got married my 3rd year of residency, had our first daughter, Brooklyn, my chief year, which was my 4th year of residency. And then my first job out was with Kaiser, Maui. And so we moved to Maui. We bought a home. That was our first home together. We had our second daughter, Madison. And while working there, I realized that I felt most fulfilled when I was in the hospital, delivering babies. And so then I started thinking, what could I possibly do to do more of this? And unfortunately at the time, and there is no such thing as an OB hospitalist, because you need a really big group to be able to do it. So I heard that there would be a position in California. So I inquired, contacted the physician recruiter, applied, interviewed, got the job. But it was a really hard decision to make to move here because, Hawaii is our home. Brandon had actually never lived anywhere outside of Hawaii before. So that was huge. What I was asking myself, what if I'm wrong? What if I don't like being an OB hospitalist? This could be disastrous. We moved our whole family there. I didn't want the disappointment. I felt responsible, everyone, because our parents moved with us. So it was a big decision, but it's been worth that risk. We're very happy here, and not to say there's not any challenges, that we encounter, but it was the right move for us at that time.
So talk about that, like all of the steps. And I'm going to actually title this show Survival Training. I love that, doctor. I love that because you say that about, it was like med school and residency. Yes, is how you categorized it.
Oh,
And I
yes.
really feel like that's life from like elementary school to even in your professional life. And then you think you get there and you're
Mhm.
still trying to figure
Got
things out,
more.
better our processes, become more professional, develop ourselves. And then come on, doctor, right? So
Yes.
so talk about now so the audience knows what your title, position, and where it is that you are now.
Yeah. So I am an OBGYN hospitalist and I work at Kaiser, South Sacramento. I only do inpatient shifts, and that's actually where I got to meet your wife.
Yeah. Shout out Martha. Shout out Brandon. Yep. Our spouses. Yep. And then in that, how would you sum up of all of the survival training that you've gotten since, being bullied and facing challenges of being half, right? Or being part Hawaiian, and then going to different regions of the country, figuring out that fruit flies and research wasn't your thing. You want to hang out with people, right? And then like getting told off that you're a dropout while you're doing, and then showing up, while you're doing makeup, and then showing up for your interview to get in, looking like Jem. Remember the old cartoon Jem,
That was
right?
one of my favorite cartoons. Yes.
Were you looking like that? Were you looking like that, right? And then
Yes.
so from
Pretty
all
close.
of those life lessons, what would be your message to the world, doctor?
Yeah. I mean, the lesson is in the struggle, and sometimes you just have to go with the flow and laugh about things, especially when they seem so ridiculous. It's like you couldn't make this stuff up,
Right, right, right.
You just gotta laugh about it, collect yourself, and move on.
Yeah. Oh man, how funny would it be if you deliver someone where the mom is going to be the patient will be the daughter of the mom who told you off, and then you guys meet up at the hospital. I mean, that's the irony of life, right? And so that's your message to the world. I mean, the lessons in the struggle, and oftentimes just because of fear. Yes, doctor, tell me if you agree. We make things to be bigger than they really are, and we think we make the struggles into a nightmare that doesn't ever even happen. Doctor, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's true. Fear is an emotion and it's a result of how we think about something,
Yeah.
and so changing the way we think about something changes the way we feel about it. And that's, honestly, what I am still working on today. It's one of my projects I'm working on. I have fears. And so I'm trying to address that. And I don't think it should, let us hold us back, because ultimately I think we're all just trying to be happy,
Right.
find our happiness. And
No,
so we shouldn't let that hold us back.
real talk. That's real talk. So let's go shout outs. Who would you like to shout out here on the Coach V show?
Oh my gosh, so many people. Of course, Brandon. He's, my rock. My daughters, Brooke, Madison, my parents, Ron and Charlie, my in-laws, Bill and Cheryl McConnell, my sister. She's amazing. She's a physician at UC Davis, Komaka, her husband, Ryan, their kids, my brother, Ben, his wonderful kids as well. So many friends and family that have supported me along the way, and so many people that, just maybe I met once or twice, but were generous enough to support me with their time, resources. So thank you to them. I've had so many mentors along the way, and I hope to be that to someone, pay it forward.
That's phenomenal. In that, you mentioned that this was such a big step in our conversations in the past, because this wasn't just something for you and Brandon and Brooklyn and Madison, but like your whole family moved over here to the 916. Talk about that pressure, please.
Yeah. My parents actually moved with us at the same time and moved into our place. And I think they were at a point in their lives where they were looking to kind of do something different. So, it was a big move for them as well, but I think it made it a little easier because we're kind of all together, kind of
Yeah.
each other. It made it a lot more manageable. My in-laws came over a couple of years later. We really missed them for that time. We saw them a couple of times, but it didn't feel like enough, because
Yeah.
their only child and these are their only grandkids. So it was hard not to have them around. And it's a huge move for them, to be away
Yes.
from friends, things they used to do. So, I know they're keeping in contact with family and friends from Hawaii, and hopefully we'll go back sometime to visit at least.
That's awesome. So you guys all now reside all in the 916. What city area, or can you tell us?
Of course, yeah. So my parents actually moved on to live in Oregon.
Okay.
They bought a home there years ago, and so ended up going there early 2020. And then my in-laws came here in the summer of 2020 and live around the corner from us. So it's perfect. We live in Elk Grove.
That's awesome. And lastly, because we're not going to have time for Coach V hot seat session, how's it going? How's life going here in Elk Grove, working at Kaiser South and South Sacramento, and just how's it all going? Everybody getting rooted? What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, we are doing good. It was tough for the kids initially because we moved here in the winter in December. So it was cold, and Brooklyn was almost 4, and she has a really good memory. So for the longest time, she missed her home, and her friends. Maddie was a little younger, so didn't really remember as much. But once we got them, into school and they made friends, everyone's doing really well now.
And what about a final message here on the Coach V Show for people that are, they have this inner calling that where they are, they're either discontented or they feel this, there's something more for me. Mm-hmm. I love Maui. I love being in Maui, but I want to be this. And to do that, I had to jump out of my comfort zone, right? Like you had to jump out of your comfort zone. And then B, like Brandon had to really jump out of his comfort zone, never living anywhere other than Hawaii, right? Yep. So what would be your message of encouragement for anyone who's looking to make a big change in their life?
Yeah. It's always easy to go the path of least resistance, right? Especially when you already have something established. Change is really, really hard. But what if you tried, and you were able to find your true happiness? Don't hold yourself back from that possibility.
That's awesome. What insightful messages. Thank you, Dr. Healani McConnell, for coming on the Coach V Show. Final. What are your thoughts about being on the Coach V Show, having a short conversation with your boy, Coach V? How was it? How was it for you?
It was inspirational. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Always a pleasure talking with you.
Always a pleasure. I look forward. Me and Brandon, we're long overdue to get the golf sticks and go out and golf here pretty soon. So I'm going to reach out to him. Thank you so much, Dr. Healani McConnell, just for your words of wisdom, your insight, and really telling us and giving us some frameworks to empower ourselves. But even more so, sister, thank you for your example. Because really it's our deal here at Island City to really feature people that have gone through some real life stuff that other people can be empowered by. And thank you for your example of, I have so many male leaders come on the show. That's why when I met you, I'm going, I got to get this gal on the show, right? Because I need to be able to feature the sisters just as much, because you all have your own challenges. And even though some of my messages and frameworks are very insightful, coming from someone like Healani McConnell, I think will really light the fire under people. So thank you so much. And for everybody else, thank you so much for tuning in to the Coach V Show here every Mono Motivation Monday here on Island City, where the beach meets the streets. I hope you enjoyed this episode like I have. And Dr. McConnell and I just don't get on shows like this just to talk for talk, right? And really, it's really that you would help or at least consider that you work on being your best, because in doing so, you realize the best of your abilities and that everything that you dream, work, and pray for can be achieved. This is how your girl, Dr. Healani McConnell, and your boy, Coach V, lives. We're all about faith and family, grateful for God's amazing grace. Until next Motivation Mondays, thank you so much for tuning in. You can catch us on the podcast on Spotify, and then you can also catch us on the Dash Radio app, as well as Facebook Live every Motivation Monday. From Dr. McConnell and your boy, Coach V, aloha, one love, and respects. See you next week. Choo!
Thank you.